Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here for a Wednesday edition of Oilers Live. We've got a special guest. He's going to have to take himself off mute, though, before he says anything. Mr. Jeff Ade is here to talk some Sabres hockey in advance of the Thursday game. And then the not-so-special guest, almost my co-host as of late, Mr. Dash in the Park from Straight Off the Pipe podcast. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, sir.
Glad.
Thanks for having me, people.
Yeah, glad to have you, Jeff. I know I had you call. You called in. Feels like ages ago. Like we're talking pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Back when I used to have a call-in segment, and you called in then, and so that's the last time I. You know who was on that time? John Warrow. Remember John?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the beat reporters from Buffalo. So happy to have you because we've got for the Oilers. It's a big game tomorrow, as every game is going down the stretch. Buffalo right now, I mean, just really trying to prove kind of where they're at and where the team's going, especially after the big trade, probably one of the biggest trades they've made in I don't know how long, but it's kind of they've been kind of, I'd say, middling even as of late, but they had a couple big wins in a row I thought were kind of good. And so happy to get you on here. Are you going to the game, first off, Jeff?
Of course. I haven't missed it in years. And
Yeah.
Actually,
well, I haven't either until this year.
Yeah, this will be your first one you're missing, Michael.
Yeah.
You're going to Calgary too, right, Jeff?
yeah, I was just going to say we already got tickets. The wife and I are heading up to Calgary, and Friday night we're going to see the Flames and Sabres game too.
Nice.
Well,
So I don't know if Dash knows, but typically what I used to do, I got a buddy in Calgary that I worked with, and he's a huge Sabres fan, and so he did a lot of work for me, like with me in a supporting role, and so I would treat him every year to both Sabres games, the Calgary game and the Edmonton game, and typically in years past, this is the first time in a long time they're playing in Edmonton first. Typically, they play in Calgary first, and then they go over to Edmonton.
Why would you punish somebody you love like that?
I know. Well, so what we would do is we go to the Calgary game, and I would wear Sabres jersey with him. I'd be one of the 4 or 5 people in the stands, and then we would go from there. We'd drive up to Edmonton and watch the game there, and I would take the Sabres jersey off in exchange for the Oilers jersey, of course, and one year I think I took the pictures for the displaced Buffalo Sabres.
Yes, you did. You joined them in the Calgary photo, didn't you?
I did. I am in the Calgary photo. Yeah, and in fact, the last couple times, I think Jeff, I don't know if I told you, but we always would stay at the same hotel as the Sabres, not on purpose. That's always the best place to stay. And so back before the Marriott, we'd stay at McDonald, right? And that's where they'd stay. So I rode the elevator with Okposo and a few other guys a couple times. And then last time we were there, we actually, my buddy and I were checking in. This is at the Marriott. And I turn around, and it's none other than Jack Eichel. So my friend, he's I don't know the best way to put it, but he's a little bit shy. And so I turned around. He's the type, he wouldn't bug a player at all. And I'm not, I don't go out of my way to bug a player, but it's Jack Eichel, and he's standing like he's not socially distanced because at the time he didn't have to. So I said, "Hey, Jack," I said, "Do you mind? Like, I just want to shake your hand. I'm wearing my Oilers jersey, but I'm like, my buddy is a huge fan." I said, "And my friend here would like to meet you." Anyway, they always play around his birthday too, so he was pretty excited about that. That's my story. That's it. That's all I got. I've been to Buffalo to watch them play too. I don't know. I'm a closet Sabres fan.
We'll take all the support we can get.
You guys can always go to the games and compromise with like a Mike Greer jersey or a Mike Pekka jersey or something, can't you?
Yeah,
Pekka. A couple of Jeff's favorite players.
Yeah. Do you have a Sabres story there, Dash, before we dial in with Jeff here on how this came to be?
The only one that actually ever pops into my mind when I think of the Sabres, you got me off guard. What if I didn't have a story? That would have been a terrible question.
I would have just moved on.
It's the first Oilers game I ever went to, because I grew up in Saskatchewan. The first game I ever went to as an Oilers fan to Rexall to watch the Oilers was on a bus with a bunch of my buddies, and we had our wives or girlfriends or whatever we were doing at the time. And I don't know, Jeff, I know the Sabres fandom is pretty small. So, geez, maybe you've heard of them. It's like, hey, Bill in Toronto, you know him? But my friend Rob Poland is a diehard Sabres fan. And Rob proposed to his wife that night. They actually called ahead and had it up on the board and then had one knee down on the aisle and proposed like 5 feet in front of me. So that's kind of what I think of every time. And I remember that Rolison was the goalie of question that night. Hasek didn't play, and we just absolutely screamed "Rolly" all night. So yeah, that's my boring Sabres story. Move on, Michael.
All right. We'll move on to our guest of the hour, Jeff. I don't know if I've ever asked you, and so we have to ask. You're living in Edmonton. Everybody's got I'm
curious too.
Yeah, everybody's got their Sabres fan story. Dash and I each know Sabres fans. Everybody knows the Sabres fan, by the way. It's not a huge fan base, but somehow everybody knows a Sabres fan.
But they're all diehards. You can't find a half-assed Sabres fan. That's the thing.
Well, if you're going to cheer for the Sabres, you might as well just do it through everything you've got to put up with. It's like being an Oilers fan. Maybe that's why.
Yeah. We share the same pain.
So, how did it all happen? How did it come to be?
Long story short, but it's going to be a long story, is my mom's older sister lives out in Buffalo. And I got a bunch of family out in Buffalo, and I don't know, they've been out there a good couple decades now. So it's been about 20 plus years, and I'm only 34 years old. And I've made every Sabres Oilers game since 2006. And I got just jerseys and shirts and hats dating back to when I was a teenager kind of thing. So I would say longevity and family at this point, because I got a bunch of family out there, and to me, I feel like I'm committed. When I started liking them, they had Dominic Hasek, and they were a little bit of a different team than they are today, right? So
yeah.
And one thing I really liked about them when I was a kid, for some reason, is just they sing both national anthems at every game, no matter who's playing. Canada, America, every game. So I thought that was pretty cool to do. And then the fact that they have 0 Stanley Cups back in 1999, they were so close. They were in the finals of Dallas, right? And I just thought it'd be kind of cool to be able to be a fan and latch on for their first ever championship, which now we're still waiting for their first.
Yeah. That's right.
Damn you, Brett Hall.
Yeah. And 2006 was close. I still like to bring that up because Carolina ruined my dream Stanley Cup matchup, and
yeah,
everybody asked me if I would have went Oilers. No chance, Buffalo all the way. Right. And
yeah. You'd have to stick to your guns there.
Yeah, you know what, and I respect that. I think, you grow up cheering for a team just because, whether you're in the city or not, I don't care. It's your team. Have you been to watch a game in Buffalo?
No, actually I haven't. And it's funny because like I said, I got family out there, and they're always inviting me to come on by and bring the family out, but we haven't really made the chance yet, but it's still something we're planning on one day.
So I like to tell this story. I've actually been twice now, but the first time that I went the Oilers were in town, and so I was in Toronto. I want to say it's about a 90-minute drive there and back. I went by myself. I knew some Oilers Live fans were out there too, and so I reached out to them and said, "Hey, I'm going to be at the game," and we'd all meet up. And I bought tickets off of some website. I don't know which website, but it was 50. It was right, like I was 15, 16 rows up, almost on the center line, and I paid $15 US. And the seats are identical to the old Rexall seats, so I felt right at home. Like I felt right at home. So I got there. Actually, quite a few Oilers fans there. Connor McDavid, he's always had some success against the Sabres, but they scored on the that was when they were playing Connor on the penalty kill, and him and Draisaitl would almost start every penalty kill, and they scored right away on that one. And the thing that I remember the best out of all of this is I'm there. I'm like, man, I got this great deal on these seats. Turns out I overpaid because this couple comes in and they sit beside me and they say, "Yeah, we only paid $10 US a seat," and I'm like, "Oh, damn, I've overpaid." But I highly recommend it. Is a great hockey city. It's not much of a jaunt. They give you a little bit of a hard time at the bridge, to get over, because they want to know you're not bringing any drugs to the game or anything like that, that sort of thing. So the guy talked to me for like 20 minutes longer than I felt like he needed to, waiting for me to slip up and, get in and all good. It's easy to get into. The rink is a lot like the old Rexall. I mean, it's nothing special, but it's good. The great thing about the old Rexall is there was not a bad seat in the house, right? And so, the same could be said about, I'm losing what's the name of the rink now? KeyBank, is that what it is?
KeyBank still? I thought it was First Niagara. But...
it might be First Niagara. Okay, another question, Sabres question. Your favorite logo?
Ooh, honestly, the like this one here. The vintage one, the original. That was kind of my favorite. And when I started liking them, they had the goat head, of course, and nothing wrong with that. I'm still a fan of that as well. And I believe they're bringing them back next year as like an alternate jersey.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that'd be cool to see as well. But if I had to choose one, the original, like vintage first one for sure.
So not the leech or whatever that thing was.
They call it the Sabre slug.
The slug. That's what they were calling it. The slug. That's right. I knew
the leech.
The leech or the slug or.
They had some good teams.
Yeah. Theron Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh man,
leech, slug.
Yeah, that goes into the list of like wrong moves for a logo. That one. Favorite Sabres fan of all time, or Sabres player? Sorry, I know who your favorite Sabres fan is. Me, of course, but
of all time, I'd have to say Hasek. I know he was just my first initial when I was a kid. But other notable favorites, I really liked Mike Greer as a kid. Actually, I watched him a lot in Edmonton, and then he went over to Buffalo later in his career. And just Mike Greer was I loved his style. Just great, power forward type and. So Mike Greer is another one. Mike Peck as well. Maxim Afinoganov. A lot of those guys in the late 90s. And yeah, some of those.
Ziggy Palffy.
There you go.
Petey named his dog Ziggy.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah. Nice. All right, guys. Let's talk some hockey, more current. Something coming up, of course, tomorrow night. Oilers face off against Buffalo. For those that don't follow Sabres hockey that are tuning in today, Sabres are coming off of two what I think are really huge wins for the Sabres fan base. First one, of course, was welcoming back Jack Eichel into Buffalo. So that was huge, right? And, of course, just the way that it came about and everything that happened that night was so big for the Sabres. I think it had to be a huge confidence booster for this team that's been through, so much, right? And so
just a moral victory, right?
And to have Tuck and Krebs score, right?
Not just that. Tuck and Krebs score. Craig Anderson gets his 300th career win.
Yeah.
It's on the 20th anniversary of the night that Dominic Hasek returned to Buffalo. And after the frickin' game, Jack Eichel decides to be the biggest sore loser in the history of hockey. Like, wow. I was stunned when I saw that.
So
what a little... He lost so much. I lost so much respect for him there. Like it was, he reminded me of that guy from Billy Madison.
You know what? I don't have a huge problem with it. Like I
go
think
after the team, go after the organization. Don't go after
the organization's a big thing. But for him, I get why he wanted to leave, given the fact that there was the piece about the surgery, right? It is what it is, but I think it's turned out well for Buffalo, right? They got, you move on from something like that, and you kind of, and you've got guys that like Krebs is going to be, he's going to be a good player. Tuck is playing at home, and so is a good news story.
Let's be honest, it worked out well for the Oilers. The Knights can't stop losing.
Yeah, well, and then there's that, right? Like I mean, you just didn't know what you were going to get back with Eichel when he did return from surgery as well, right? So, yeah. So your thoughts, Jeff, I mean, on that return, I mean, how was that for you? I assume you watched the game and do you have ill feeling towards, I mean, obviously Dash isn't walking around with an Eichel jersey right now, but like, what's your thoughts?
Oh no,
on
it's
Eichel
hanging right behind my Keith jersey
that's
right.
That's right. What's your thoughts on the Eichel thing and the game itself, and how'd that feel as a fan?
Overall, I do feel mixed about it because I don't blame him because the whole surgery thing at the end of the day, and plus he was there for 6 years, and the team didn't really build around him properly too, but the post-game comments were pretty, I'll try to cut him some slack. He just came off the ice from a serious game. He probably wasn't expecting it to go that horribly for him. And maybe the heat of the moment caught him too much. But, in a way, it's good for the team bonding, right? They seem like they're good, close-knit group in the room. And you're going to see in that reaction, too, like Alex Tuck and his empty net goal at the end of the game. Like he pretty much knocked Eichel over to get that empty net goal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a thing of beauty, right? Yeah.
So it was really good to see. And at the end of the day, too, I hate to say it, but it's good to finally get that closure away and finally move on, right? Like that game was circled on the calendar by everybody. Now we can finally, we got that win and we can be happy about it. And, good riddance in a way, because I feel like Buffalo did really well in that trade. And, let's just kind of move on away, right? It's funny because Oilers fans are hoping they lose for the Pacific Division. And while Buffalo, we have their first round pick and we're hoping it's top 10 protected, but if they just barely miss the playoffs, we could have like 13th, 2 top 15 picks kind of thing, right? So
yeah, best case scenario that comes in at like an 11 or a 12, right? And
you're
laughing as far as the overall value for that, because not only that pick, but Tuck is a glue guy too. One more thing, Michael, sorry, just to say. When I saw that Tuck goal, I thought it was a changing of the guard. It was like that, in wrestling when they pass the torch and, Stone Cold gets pinned by the new guy and Cena gets to have his hand raised. It was a little bit of that, right? Like there was the old captain getting bowled over by the new captain, in my opinion. So it was there's so much karma, that proof of hockey gods.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I really hope Alex Tuck's the next captain in the offseason. Like he's from the area and he seems like he's just happy to be there. It's really good to have someone who was a fan of the team growing up, and you could just see his enthusiasm, right? So I really hope Tuck's the next captain come the summer.
Yeah,
Vegas misses him. He was pronounced glue guy on that team. So
yeah, I mean overall, you can't be unhappy with how it's turned out. I mean, it's not like the Sabres are doing any worse than they were, right? So. Mm-hmm. You just you got to move on from that. And then, though, you go from that game and you walk into what's a big, really sort of, a big game for Toronto, a big game for Buffalo because it's close to home. It's in Hamilton. There's actually quite a few Sabres fans in Hamilton, right? Like there's, it's actually a good fan base there for the Sabres. They're not that far away. A lot of them grew up being Sabres fans because they were either tired of Toronto, right? And it was an easy place to get tickets, right? Like, so that's what happened. So, they go into the outdoor game. I just thought like a lot of heart. Like it was just the kind of game that, you can build on. And in a season that's gone the way that it's been for Buffalo, again, I mean, that had to feel good as a fan just watching that. And, of course, it being, must have been something I said.
Yeah, I thought you were being pretty nice, to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
For me, that
we
presser
got you
really
back.
showed. Like, I know you're into the outdoor game now, but just to stall a little bit, like that presser really showed me that
Jeff's back.
It almost justified a lot of and I understand where Jeff's coming from, where you want to try and defend, your favorite player for the last 6-7 years. And, we all do it with McDavid right now. But if McDavid walks out of Edmonton in 4 years, we're all going to go, that skinny little puke, like it's going to be just like that. So it's hard. But like, I think when you walk in and you say something like that in your presser, he almost just proved that he was mentally weak. Like it justified like the reputation he has for being immature and a poor leader. Like that's not, when John Tavares went back to New York, he said all the right things, and it was what it was, and blah blah blah. And so I don't know, I just like, now you see Vegas losing with Eichel there, and it just makes me feel like, what, maybe Jack Eichel's just a loser.
You didn't say anything wrong there,
Well, Taylor Hall goes everywhere and they win the lottery. Like, it's something to be said about somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was asking you about the Leafs game. I was just trying to stall.
Yeah.
It's all good. The Leafs game was fun to watch. It's they seemed like they just had a lot of fight, a lot of energy. And Dylan Cousins, for example, the way he was just, you love to see that kind of thing, right? Especially from your young players that are, part of the future solution kind of thing, right? So I'm a huge Cousins fan, and just, you got to love to see that type of thing. And then the whole Darlene and Austin Matthews thing, it's, I was hoping for a little 4 or 5 games. Everybody had a different amount of games than what he could have got, right? But it was, good for Darlene to step up to that type of player. Darlene's not going to take any kind of crap either. And, that's what you want to see from your young players that are going to be part of the future success. Like Darlene and Cousins, they're going to be part of this team for years to come, hopefully, right? So,
Yeah, the that Cousins hit on Matthews was I mean, there's a lot of Canadian fans, Canadian hockey fans that stood up for that one and enjoyed every second.
I felt a
of
little
it.
warmth in my belly. I'm not gonna lie.
And then Darlene, so what's your thought on this? Because every Leafs fan in the world is going to tell you that Darlene cross-checked Matthews, but
or speared him or something,
or what's your thought on that? I mean, and are you comfortable with 2 games?
Darlene wasn't innocent, of course, but I think what he was doing is kind of like 2-minute penalty worthy, and the ref should have stepped in and maybe called a penalty, sure. But at the end of the day, Matthews, some were saying that his stick kind of rolled up the shoulder pads and, there wasn't intent, but you still got to have control of your stick in that situation. And he was a little reckless, careless, you can say. And I thought 2 games was a little light. I thought they maybe could have gone 4 or 5 games, a little more. But, it's so inconsistent with the way they're calling the suspensions too. So tough to tell.
Big time.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than a fine.
Well said.
Better than a fine. That's all I have.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I expected 4 or 5. I mean, I'd echo that exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I expected 2. I'd hoped for more. I shouldn't say I hoped for more. You know what? I love ragging on Matthews only because Toronto fans. It's hard to say they overvalue him because he's a hell of a player, but they just think that he's, the best player in the world. And
I was
and
just listening to a chunk of Overdrive today, and they said arguably the best player in the NHL today.
Yeah. So, that's the only part that drives me nuts. But
drives me nuts.
But you know what? He is a hell of a goal scorer. Can't deny that. We've got a tough call. Josh says, I feel so old when people don't have May Day 1993 as the first thing they think of when they hear the Sabres. And say Pat LaFontaine as their favorite Sabres player. And you are old, Josh. So,
so we'll leave it at that then.
So we'll leave it at that, yeah. I've played hockey with May Day, by the way.
Do you know what a Josh Bolton hat trick is, Jeff? Never mind. We'll move on. I'll tell you later.
I will tell you later. All right. We got a big game happening tomorrow night. Anybody out of the lineup that we should know for the Sabres?
You know what? I'm not sure at the moment offhand. Like Colin Miller is supposed to be returning soon, but I don't think he's back to action yet. And the only reason why I bring Colin Miller up is because he's going to be a kind of a trade deadline target in a way. Yeah. You know, in a perfect world, I would love to get a first round pick for him, but I know that's not happening. So maybe they can get like a second rounder for Colin Miller. I don't know. Teams need right-handed defenseman, right? So
yeah,
he's practicing and should be back soon, but I'm not sure if he's even on the trip or not.
I can see easily getting a second round pick for a guy like Miller, especially that he's right-handed. I think he played a lot of top pairing minutes for Vegas in that Stanley Cup run too. Like it's not like he's just a third. Well, he is a third pairing scrub, but he's capable of playing bigger minutes and knowing what it takes to take a run. Will Butcher, Drake Kajula, Malcolm Subban.
Yeah. And Miller, by the way,
Are the other
still
injuries.
sitting on IR. So he hasn't been activated, so likely won't be activated in time.
I heard he was close. That's all. I wasn't sure on the status of that. And yeah, they're going to unload a lot at the deadline. I'm kind of looking forward to that coming up because, you know, draft picks and load up as best as you can, right?
And do you think they'll move?
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
Who?
Yeah.
Who else do you think they'll move? Like, do you think you'll see an Okposo get traded, or is that salary too big? Or
I think he's sticking around. You know, they're going to be in trouble next year to even hit the salary floor. So they're going to need kind of Okposo's $6 million to hit the floor next year. But you know, besides Colin Miller, as I mentioned, I think Cody Aiken's another guy that's for sure gone. You know, he could be a fourth line center for somebody. He's got playoff experience with Vegas as well. So Cody Aiken's another one. And as much as it pains me, I think Mark Pesic might be gone. You know, Mark Pesic is a, you know, upcoming free agent. And I think a team could use a right-handed defenseman like that as well. And another one, Vinny Hinostroza as well. You know, he's been on a little bit of a roll lately. And I think Vinny Hinostroza can maybe, you know, have some interest from other teams as well. And that's another player where, you know, Pesic and Hinostroza, where I think they might unload them at the deadline, but that'd be amazing if they could bring him back in the offseason, but who knows if that'll happen. So Miller, Aiken, Pesic, Hinostroza, like there's a good handful for sure, right? So
yeah, I mean,
Robert
been one. Sorry,
I'd love to see Pesic here.
Yeah, that's one a lot of people have recognized as potential for the Oilers. So we could see maybe mid game we'll see him step off the ice and Cassian step off the ice at the same time. Or Smith. You guys Sabres could use Smith.
No, it's funny.
Sabres need a Smith in their lineup.
Do they really?
And
they already have the oldest goalie in the league, and they need Mike Smith
and Duncan Keith, right? I mean, you guys could pick up that salary, wouldn't you? Love to take that one.
They need money, but let's stay away from those guys. You know, Mike Smith, we've seen the way he yells at his young blue liners. What was it, Broberg and Nima Line in there in Tampa Bay, right? And
that was just one game. I think he was yelling at Lagesson 2 games before that, and he was yelling at Bouchard and swinging his stick at him 2 games before that.
And the Sabres are filled with young players and young blue liners, so you don't want that kind of bully and, you know, hanging around. That kind of play, right?
That's just meaning is Mike Smith swinging his stick at Owen Power. Yeah, great. Welcome to the team, Smitty. Fun facts: if Smith and Anderson play against each other tomorrow, it'll go down as in history as the 2 most generically named opposing goalies of all time.
Yeah, so I mean, Smith obviously is starting tomorrow night. So you know, we'll see him. This has got to be like his last shot, right? I mean, he
talked about it on the radio a little bit today.
Was it?
It isn't. It isn't. I think it's his last shot until they need him again.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's that.
Like if he shits the bed tomorrow night, what are we? Okay, so maybe back on the IR, maybe down to the minors. I don't know what that solves, right? But if he's good, he's gonna get. I bet he plays again on Saturday against New Jersey if has a good start.
I doubt that.
You know, I don't know. So then, I don't know. Yeah, I think if Smith falters, he's probably not gonna see. Like I'd say then we see Skinner up. But for how long? If somebody gets hurt, we still need Smith again. I don't think you can say he's going to play his last game as an Oiler if he has a shitty game.
Who on the Sabres this year has really surprised you, Jeff? I mean, there's the usuals, right? But who's surprised you this year?
This year I got to go with like Tage Thompson for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody's waiting for him to break out and everything from the Ryan O'Reilly trade. And, this is kind of his coming out year. And one big thing that Coach Granato's done, he's moving back to center, and I think it's been a good few years since Thompson's played center. And it seems like it's been a great move there because he's having a career year already. And Tage Thompson's looking like the player that they hope they got from St. Louis in that O'Reilly trade. So, Tage Thompson for sure, he could have been an all-star this year, I feel like, and yeah, easily hit.
Any disappointment in Middlestat at all? I mean, I thought I always expected a little bit more of him, and he's just been kind of.
I don't know how you couldn't be disappointed in him.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like the expectations were to be a little higher, and we're still kind of holding out. But he was drafted to I think it was 2016, so it's good 6 years ago now, and you're kind of wondering when's he going to break out and everything. So we've seen glimpses and signs, and you still kind of hope, but that hope is diminishing. And it is underwhelming in ways, but I still like the player and he's been great for them. But, he's been a little bit of a disappointment, I guess, still.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you?
I was pretty surprised at Okposo's rebound.
He's been really great as well, actually. And, I ain't looking at the salary because, $6 million is what it is, but
you need him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's worked really well with Dylan Cousins, actually. And I think when they have them paired together, Cousins and Okposo, the older and the younger player, they've really mixed well. So I kind of like them when Granato has them together, and Okposo's really look good. And he seems like a leader in that room that, people kind of look up to there. And yeah,
I'd say he's the de facto fill-in captain there now, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So that's, that brings up another thing because I think you look at Okposo, you look at some players like that, and Edmonton's had guys like this all the time that, you can't always look at the salary, right? I mean, the salary is something the coach has nothing to do with, right? And so it all boils down to utilization, right? Like if you're, perfect example is Cassian on the Oilers. The salary he has would dictate that he plays somewhere different in the lineup than he should be playing. And so if you got good coaching, then, obviously, and Lucic is a good example. I mean, he never had a chance with his salary coming into the Oilers because it was always expected that he'd play, where his salary said he'd play. How do you feel about Don Granato and the utilization? And how do you feel about Don Granato? I mean, he's come in. I wouldn't say the Sabres are doing significantly better by any stretch, but how do you feel about it? You think this is a guy that's going to have a future in Buffalo and can take this team to the next step?
I'm still on the fence with him, but the one thing, it's someone new. It's not a recycled coach like we've seen all the time. So it's kind of he's getting a chance. He's been an assistant, and he's finally getting his opportunity to show what we can do. And I do like him, and I feel like you got to stop the coaching carousel sometimes. So give him a shot. This is his first full season behind the helm. Yeah. Give him next year as well, because he can grow with a lot of these young players. And I think he's been doing great. I think a lot of people at the beginning of the year were predicting Buffalo to finish maybe bottom 3, bottom 5. And currently they're, out of the bottom 5, they're like 6th last or something like that. And they could draft anywhere, 5 to 10. So, as much as it's little, I feel like they have still exceeded a little bit expectations, so they're slowly, gradually climbing. And I hope he sticks around and actually does be part of the team's future as well, because there's a lot of good young players that he's already had last season as an assistant and an interim, and even this year. So even next year, he's going to have a big crop of young players, right? So I say give him a shot still. He's got to grow with them as well, too. And, let's see what he can do next year, too, when he has guys like Owen Power full time. And, next year, I know I'm speaking a little too far ahead, but, some fans are hoping for the playoffs already. And I think next year's a little too soon for that, but they should still be out of the probably bottom 5, bottom 10, area, right? They should gradually climb again. It should be just a development year and hope those kids like Owen Power and get their feet wet and kind of just, get used to the NHL game and pro game and see how much they can develop in the NHL world.
Exactly.
Yeah, the interesting thing with a team like with Buffalo, right, is Adams could have a hell of a trade deadline, right, and pick up some real good prospects, and then you just don't know what you have until the season starts next year, right? they could very well be a playoff team. The challenge, though, then is, and Oilers fans know this better than anybody, is increased expectation, right? Doesn't always, is a hard thing to deal with as a fan when it's sort of maybe misplaced, right? Expectation.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oilers fans a number of years have had expectations that just weren't realistic. But we got, even this year is a prime example. You come out of the gates as fast as you do, and we all start to expect Stanley Cup parade, and then you come down to earth. It's a hard thing to deal with as a fan, the ups and downs and that. What's your thought on the game tomorrow? Like, how do you feel this team is going to come out? Like, they've had two, I think, very emotional wins, and then they come into town after 4 or 5 games off. Like, what's their history in this type of a scenario? Do they come in fast and hard, or do they start sluggish in this type of a game?
They haven't played since the outdoor game on Sunday, and they just traveled today and stuff like that. So I think they should be well rested. And after the Vegas game and Toronto game, those were good bonding games. And it seems like, hopefully, anyways, they'll carry on that momentum to the Alberta trip. And it's just right now, like I said, they're just hoping for small wins in a way. Like, even if it's just looking for just the rookies or the young players like Cousins taking more steps and things like that, and Dahlin just continuing to progress. And I think they'll come out flying. And I hate to say it, but with Mike Smith in that, I think the Sabres could take advantage of things in a way. And, I'm not going to predict the Sabres win, of course, or anything, but it should be a good, close, hard.
Oh, you should.
Yeah, I mean,
and I predicted an Oilers win, but this is the one I'm worried about of the next two. It's not New Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and right now the Sabres team, they're playing like, they got nothing to lose, right? Like, they're just having fun right now. It seems like they're having just a lot of fun, and guys like Craig Anderson, he could be gone at the deadline too, if a team's looking for insurance, and this could be their last kind of few games. Like, this Western Canadian trip could be the last few games with a group of those players too. So they kind of want to go out with a big bang in a way. And I don't know, I think they should come out flying the next couple nights. So I'm hoping so, of course.
Hey, and
we talked on last night's show about doing a lateral goaltender trade, Michael. How about Mike Smith for Craig Anderson?
The lateral goaltender trade.
Dump 1.5 million.
Yeah. And hey, if we can get rid of
you
Smith,
get younger and in between the pipes.
If we can get rid of Smith, then I could care less if it's lateral or not. But that's not, But when I'm talking a lateral goaltending move, it's not to do with Smith. so I mean, if you take Anderson over Smith, I'd be all right with that. But
Anderson is going to league minimum. Oilers are in financial tight.
That's just it, right? I mean,
exactly.
I honestly wouldn't have
more than Craig Anderson.
I would not have a problem with it, not as a backup, but at the same time, I mean, that's not our problem. Our problem is having two goalies that are reasonably inconsistent going into the playoffs.
Sorry to pick up your team now, but how many years have you guys been saying that same thing now, right?
Well, no, I mean, we the heavy hockey team has a group chat going, and there's we talk a lot about the trades that are coming and going, and Oilers were rumored to be in on Kubalik today, right out of Chicago, which is a forward that isn't necessarily necessary on this team. The Flames made a move
on a couple of wingers.
Yeah, and the Flames made a move on Yarncroc today, right? And there are GMs around the league that are getting things done, and our GM just isn't, right? And Ken Holland is a very experienced, seasoned guy, and as everybody knows, he GM'd in Detroit. If you heard, I don't know if you heard. And he had some success there. Now he's kind of flying on that success, and we haven't really seen a whole lot of, this is, you can, I don't know that we're any better now that Holland's been in place. I don't know that we're any worse. I think we're stagnant. So we've had time. So I guess if you consider that you should be getting better year over year, consecutively better, then we're worse, right? In that sense, right? Like we're worse. We're worse off than where we should be, because we've had the same problem for a little while now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to
Oilers
say-
the Oiler in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in year 7 of 97, they shouldn't be in this kind of doubt and so many question marks still. And honestly, I'm not a Holland fan. Like a lot of the Detroit fame, I feel like came pre-salary cap era, and in the salary cap era, he hasn't shown he can adjust to the new game and the way things are, you know. And I feel like he left Detroit in so many shambles. You could list how many contracts like Steven Weiss and De Kaiser, and how many just, you know, the way the Wings have looked right in the cap era so far. So I don't know. I'm not a Holland fan personally, and just I kind of feel bad in some way for some other friends, because you shouldn't be here in this position in 2022 with Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. You guys, I don't know. You shouldn't be in this position. You should be fighting for the division title, not just saying, "Oh, I hope we make the playoffs." Right?
We had $20 million in cap space, Jeff. $20 million in cap space, and look who we have: Tyson Barrie and Duncan Keith.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and the Keith thing too. Sorry, but you know, Keith was asking out, or he was wanting to go to Western Canada, or whatever it was, and it still boggles my mind how you don't get Chicago to retain any kind of salary whatsoever, right?
Yeah,
Like,
leverage
all
that.
the leverage in the world
it.
and just use none of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something we don't know, and but when you hear it from another, like a fan of another team, I mean, it just sort of solidifies something that we already know and are looking at, and I thought when we got Holland, I thought good things actually. At first I was a little worried about his age, just not an ageist remark so much as the way that the league is going, right? The way that the new GMs are thinking, and the success that they're able to have, and just being able to look at the game in a new light. Like the game is changing, right? It's not,
Your GM shouldn't be the same age as your goalie.
yeah, no, and or older. I like Kevin Adams is a young guy, right? He's 47. He might be the guy that the Sabres need. He's what, about a year and a half in, 2 years in now from Botterill.
Yeah, well, this is his second season, I believe, and he's looked so far so good. And I like the way they're kind of building for the future. They got 3 first-round picks in this coming draft with Vegas and Florida. I think Florida, personally, I think they're going to do really good. Some people still question the goaltending, which is a fair question. You don't know what you're going to get in Bobrovsky sometimes, but they got Spencer Knight as well, and rookies can step it up all the time too. So I feel like they got the depth in the crease if they need it as well. So Florida, I feel like it might be a later first-round pick, but regardless, 3 first-round picks, and they're still going to load up with potentially some seconds. And it's supposed to be a deep draft, as they say too, right? So it's looking good for the future, and they got some good guys already in the American Hockey League, and so there's some things that are promising, and I feel like Adams and the staff there have really built something good there.
Who's the while we're talking about it, and we'll get back to the game, but who's the one prospect in the system that really sort of excites you as a Sabres fan?
There's a couple. Like, I got to say Owen Power for sure, but I'm a huge fan of JJ Peterka from the German prospect there. He's right now in Rochester, right? And he's leading the Rochester Americans in points, and he's looked really well. Like, JJ Peterka could be a great pick. They got him in the second round, and some people didn't think he was going to slip that far, and it's really high on Peterka. They got Jack Quinn as well, and Jack Quinn went 8th overall last year, or the year before, sorry. And if I had to pick one, Owen Power I think looks promising, but he's dropped off lately from what I hear, but at the end of the day, he's had a busy season. He went to the Olympics, and the World Juniors and everything got canceled on him. So Power's been all over the globe this year, and I think he'll be great. And he's probably one of the biggest I'm looking forward to. I love defensemen. I'm sorry, but I feel like with Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power, they're building a good blue line there.
Yeah, I'm a big Dahlin fan,
big time,
and I think I don't think people talk about him enough, and it's probably because he's in Buffalo. But as I've said, I've had a chance to watch Buffalo live and in person a number of times, and to watch Dahlin play, and I always talk about this. You can see a lot of things watching on TV, but there's a lot of things you don't see, and you need to go and watch Dahlin live to see what he brings to the team. Some of the things he does are just, his hockey sense is, out of this world, and he just knows how to play the game, and if he gets going, and I just feel like we haven't really seen him get going yet. And keep in mind, he's 21. Cale Makar was 22, 23 before he came into the league, right? I'm not saying he's going to be a Cale Makar, but he's got that level of talent. Like, he is just a talented defenseman who's still young. Maybe Buffalo could be said to have brought him in too early. Who knows? But when you're first overall like that, that's an expectation almost nowadays, right? And so, hey, I'm a big Dahlin fan. I hope he.
If I was a Sabres fan, I'd be excited about the goaltending prospects you guys have been coming up.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that too. They got, I feel like, 3 goalies in the waiting in a way. And I feel like goalies are voodoo, as they say, but with 3 goalies, you got the odds in your favor. Hopefully one will pan out. Right now they got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, right? And he's been up and down.
Luukkonen.
Yeah, he's been up
Easy
and down.
for you to say.
He's been up and down this year between the minors and the NHL, and he was injured a little bit, but I feel like they're keeping him down in the minors to kind of just get more games, get more reps and stuff like that. But even in the NCAA right now, they got Devin Levi and Eric Portolo. And with those two as well, like Devin Levi setting records down there and like getting just so many, the shutouts and all that. And he's looking great as well. So Levi's somebody, I don't know for sure, but I think he'll be in the American Hockey League next year. And just with 3 goalies like that, you can have Ukko-Pekka in the NHL next year and Devin Levi in the American League next year. And you got so many bread in the basket with the goalie position too. So yeah, that's a huge positive too, because.
Which one's in Michigan? Is that Levi or Portolo?
Eric Portolo. And no, they all look great so far. And it's just, you got to.
Oilers fans be jealous.
Yeah, a little bit. Sorry, Devin Levi is in Northeastern. There he is.
Right, right. That's right. I couldn't place where he was.
Yeah, the goalie position is huge. And Skinner, I got to transition over to the Oilers. I'm a huge fan of Stuart Skinner. I got to say, like, he's had a great progression and everything. Like, he's done it all in the minors now, and I feel like they got to give him a shot. Like, he's shown signs, and you draft a goalie, you develop him in your minors and in your system, and give him a shot, give him an opportunity. You know what I mean? So I feel like Stuart Skinner, like, I don't think he's going to be the starter next year, but he should be a good backup or a good 1B type. And so, it's in that sense, I can smile in a way. The Sabres have like great prospects for the future in goaltending, and the Oilers, they got Skinner. And, I'm not going to slouch on Konolanov because he sounds like he should be okay too. Right. So
it's just a little small.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
5'11" or 6 foot.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll see. But obviously, I mean, he played against the men last year and did all right. Different game though, right? As we see, I mean, Koskinen had some time needed some time to adjust. Talked to some guys that about the KHL. They said, in the KHL, the big difference is all the shots are from the outside. And in the NHL, there's a lot of movement right in the front of the crease, right? And so
it's a bigger ice surface, right?
Yeah. So you gotta be ready for those tips. You got to be ready for people jamming away at the puck once you get to the NHL, and so that's why the bigger goalies kind of can do a little bit better in that regard.
I almost wonder if the Edmonton Oilers are going to do the league a favor and get rid of that narrative a little bit, right? So you see a 6'5" and a 6'7" goalie and using the reverse VH to hug the post and look like they're 5'2". Both of those goalies have been scored on over their shoulders and over their heads multiple times. And then you look at a guy like UC Saros or, there's some more smaller athletic goalies. And
Saros is an exception. There's not a lot of smaller athletic goalies, right? Like, it's just not. It's not a. There's a couple exceptions.
You're right.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at the guy that's coming out of Edmonton. What's his name? The Oil Kings.
Konovalov?
No.
Yeah. Sebastian Cox,
Casa. I mean, he's huge, right? He's huge. He's mobile, right? Like, these guys can be big and play a mobile game now. That's the difference, right? I mean, you could never see a big guy like that have anything resembling mobility back in the day, and now they're extreme athletes, right? Like they're doing really well. Okay, so I mean, yeah, we talk about Skinner. Let's I mean, you come into this game, you think Smith. Who's your favorite going into the game? Like Hinostroza's coming off a big game, if not a little bit lucky, right? I mean, but still, you got to be there to be lucky, right? And so, like he scored 2 more goals than I ever scored in my NHL career, and he did it in 1 game. So, what's your thought? Who's the guy that Oilers fans need to watch out for?
I'd say there's a few for sure, but Alex Tuck's been on a roll. Watch out for him. And 2 of the youngsters I want to bring up, Dylan Cousins and Peyton Krebs. They're, local boys in a way. Peyton Krebs just from the Calgary area. I'm sure he'll love to play in Alberta, and Dylan Cousins played in Lethbridge, right? And from the Yukon. So, I'm sure they'll have some excitement playing in Western Canada and playing in Alberta. So I want to see what Peyton Krebs and Dylan Cousins will do, because they've been on a roll lately too. And I feel like those young kids are just finally finding their groove in a way, getting the confidence. And, Krebs and Cousins are they're going to be part of the future. And I think they're 2 kids you got to watch out for.
So I got a chance to skate with Peyton Krebs in a shinny game when he injured himself right before he came up to the NHL, and he was in Calgary and got a chance to. There's a guy that would organize some games there, and so I got a chance to skate with him. Hell of a player, obviously, but something special, right? And Dylan Cousins, I'm a big fan, right? Like. Mm-hmm. Actually, now that you mentioned those 2 guys, I'm looking forward to that. Just watching them tomorrow night, like it should be fun. So, at the same time,
didn't Cousins snipe 2 on us last time?
I don't know. Did he?
I think I was on your show post game last time, and I'm pretty sure I parlayed Oilers getting scored on and Cousins scoring, and I think he got 2.
I just know the Sabres have won the last 3 matchups, but I'm not sure in the last on the exact scoring. I forget already, but.
Where are your seats? You got good seats for the game?
Yeah, section 129, row 16. So I think it's behind the Oilers net there. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully not too much action there, but we know that's not going to be the case.
That's Sabre shoot twice in too. That's nice.
Yeah.
You get a close look at Mike Smith's follies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the big question mark in the game tomorrow night, right? Is Mike Smith. And to be fair, right? The Oilers, this is a game they should win, right? Sabres have, some deficiencies that the Oilers should be able to take advantage of. And some of the young guys, right, should, this is a team that matches up well for the Oilers, but my biggest concern about the game is really 2 emotional wins, a little bit of time off. As you said, a chance for this team that's started to come together, right? The other thing is the Oilers are in the thick of a playoff battle. I know it's still a little bit early, but it's not that early anymore.
It's not early, man. We are in a playoff battle.
No, but I mean, like, there's still time before it's all fully decided, but it is, this is about as close as it gets at this time of year. And so these are the games that, in that Buffalo Sabres dressing room, they're talking about they want to be the spoiler. They want to come in, and they've had the chance to do it against Toronto. They had the chance to do it against Vegas. I just think that, Buffalo's got, as you said earlier, nothing to lose, a lot to gain. Some of these players might know they're on their way out the door too, and want to show up for their buddies in the locker room one last time, or right, like. They must have. They got the Calgary game before the deadline, and I think that's it, right?
No, they play in Vancouver on Sunday night.
Oh, in Vancouver on Sunday, yeah. So Saturday, Sunday. So they've got 3 games really till until the deadline, and so it's. I think this is a big time for them. I'm more worried about this game than I am about the New Jersey game for sure. Yeah, I think you said that earlier too, Dash. I think.
Yeah, for sure. And just for the record, since we were talking about it, it was a 3-2 Sabres victory. Dylan Cousins scored both the second and the third goal against the Oilers, and Mark Piszczek assisted on the third goal. And I believe in my memory, those were breakaways or something. I seem to remember Cousins being sent on like 2 or 3 breakaways that game.
Screw them both. We're sending Archie after him. Sending Archie after him.
Send Perlini's mom after him. She might be more feisty.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say, Jeff?
I was just saying, I just recall the Sabres have won the last 3 matchups and everything against the Oilers. So, Edmonton shouldn't take them lightly, and the Sabres have their number lately. They've won the last 3, so they should be, they should be a tough team tomorrow. So
I really feel like this is our sister team, right? Like this is, if there is a team that the Oilers fans can relate to, it's the Buffalo Sabres, right?
it is. We've had so many similarities the past, 15 years or so. And this year will be 11 straight years without the playoffs for the Sabres. So we're gonna take that record from you guys. You know what I mean? So you guys talk about the decade of so yeah. No, but this will be 11 straight years without the playoffs. So it's so many similarities you can talk about. And, you got to just build a team, and the way I think the Sabres are doing is the way you have to. You got to draft and develop, and sometimes just be patient and trust the process in a way. And, I kind of like the pace they're on right now. And the Oilers, they'll make the playoffs, I think, this year. Things are tight, but I think they'll still make it. But getting past the first round or going deep, I don't know if they're built for that. We'll still have to see what happens with the deadline. But I don't have faith in Holland personally. And financially, they're still pretty tight. So what can Holland even do too, right? So things look a little bleak for you guys, and I hope for the best, of course. Like I support the Oilers, but just I don't know. Come playoff time, it's going to be a tough matchup, no matter who they face. I feel like Could you imagine a Calgary though? That'd be crazy.
No kidding. We joked about it in our private thread today because Gio got pulled out of the lineup in Seattle. That maybe the Oilers are trading for Giordano, and then we could have him versus the Flames in the first round.
A lot of people think I'm crazy about this, but I think Calgary's the one team that I would be for in the first round. Like that's the one team I think.
I'm not scared of them. I think Jeff's just saying entertainment-wise.
Entertainment-wise,
how fun
I know.
would that be?
But a lot of people would be scared of that matchup, and for me, I think that's the one team that the emotional side of it helps the Oilers out. Whereas the other teams, not that they're not going to get up and ready for any other team, but I just think that Calgary Edmonton thing is so much different, even from a fan perspective, everything like that. And I just think it's louder in Edmonton than it is in Calgary. There's like Edmonton fans can be real assholes, and I think that's great for that type of an environment. Whereas if you don't want to be playing, as I think Sutter said it. Sutter said it best today. It's a waste of 8 days if you end up playing Colorado in that first round.
That's pretty funny.
It was hilarious, and
little gamesmanship.
Yeah, I don't always agree with him, but you know what? I agree with the way he's talking in terms of this. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to be ahead of. He said Vegas and Edmonton, and I think for Edmonton, you got to be ahead of Los Angeles and Vegas, right? I don't think we're catching Calgary anymore, and you don't want to be in a wild card spot, right? Like you just do not want to have any opportunity to have to play Colorado in the first round. There's no gimmies, obviously, for Colorado or for anybody, but you really don't want to be there. And Jeff, I certainly hope that next year at this time we're talking about the Sabres and where they might end up playing. We're pretty darn close to the end of the hour. I'm going to pass it off to Dash if he's got any last questions, and if not, he knows what to do, how to pass the baton over to you to finish the show, and that's how we do it. So I'm actually passing the baton over to Dash. He's going to throw it over to you, and Jeff, all we do on this show is our guests always get the last word. And when you're done speaking, you say goodbye, and I throw down the curtain, and we're done for the night. But it's probably the hardest part of my day to not say anything. And I honestly, I've had to put myself on mute before because I want no, I don't. That's
biting your lip because you want to jump back in.
I want to jump back in, but But
so the key here is to say something, like really good, but not that good, where Michael wants to jump back onto his microphone.
Exactly. So that's where we're at. So Dash, pass the baton over to you. You know what to do.
I do. All right. Well, thanks for having me on again, Michael. I believe this makes 3 episodes in a row. So I think that's another Dash in the Park Oilerslive natural hat trick. I'm not sure how. Either Matthew Barnaby canceled again and you just keep scrambling back to me, or maybe I boost ratings, or maybe you just like the sound of my voice more than I actually do. But it's been a pleasure. I will have probably stalled enough now for Jeff to have thought of something tricky, and it's equally hard for me to shut my mouth at the end of these as well. So I am going to mute. Over to you, Jeff. Good night. Let's go Oilers.
I just want to say thanks, Michael, for having me on. I miss you, buddy. It's been a few years since I've seen you now. Dash, I just met you tonight. This is our first kind of meeting, so it's nice to meet you, Dash. And just, tomorrow night's going to be a good game. I hope the best for both teams. Let's go Buffalo, of course, right? But any other night, I'll support the Oilers, and I'll hope you guys, pull off the 2 points, but not tomorrow night, of course. So let's say 5-2 Buffalo win, and let's go Buffalo, guys. Thanks for having me on. Farewell.
Oilers Live.